Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gaiman, and this is your round two recap episode for the Sanderson Farms Championship. And joining me to break it all down, it is Greg Ducharme. What is up, Greg?
Man, what a day. I'm excited to be here, Rick. The halfway point. These are always fun ones. We get to kind of evaluate our picks earlier in the week. And this has been one, I have to say, looking at this leaderboard right now, you would have been going out on a real limb to pick the top of this leaderboard.
Well, even from like a fantasy perspective, like half of the top 12 most expensive golfers are going to miss the cut. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was kind of devastation up at the top, but it was not devastation for one Keegan Bradley, who follows up his 66 on Thursday with a 65 on Friday. He goes out in 32, Greg, and then he punctuates his rounds with an absolute dime. That's what our friends over on the Pick Six pod call it, right? An absolute dime into 18, into, even for Keegan, kick-in range. It was like 2 feet. He knocks it in for birdie, shoots a 65. He's your leader by 2.
But his kick-in range this week is a lot longer than it normally is. It's been impressive, so to speak. I mean, you look at a player like Keegan Bradley, and usually if he breaks even or is slightly positive on the greens, it's going to go pretty well for him. He's a solid ball striker. I mean, I wouldn't put him on a level of Sergio Garcia, who we'll talk about later, but he's generally pretty good. You look at him he's second in strokes gained putting. I mean, 207 feet of putts made for Keegan Bradley. And when he putts that way, this is where you find him, top of the leaderboard.
Yeah, his Thursday round was one of the best putting rounds I had in my database on him. I'm sure his Friday round, when I go look at that, it'll be similar. I mean, he's getting 6.5 strokes on the field on the greens. What I think is interesting to note about Keegan is, you know, this he's going for his 5th career PGA Tour victory. And when you think about when has Keegan won, like it feels like it's been a lot longer than it actually has. You know, he won.
It was the BMW, right?
2 years ago. Yeah, the 2018 BMW Championship, which would have been about this time in 2018, a little, 25 months ago, something like that. It feels like it's 6 or 7 years, but it's not.
Yeah, that was a great performance. That was Justin Rose was in the mix there. I think they were even in a playoff. I think Rosie and Keegan were in a playoff. Keegan wins. Justin Rose goes on to win the FedEx Cup, and of course, Tiger Woods won the Tour Championship that year. So if you think about Tiger winning the Tour Championship, that's not that long ago. And there was Keegan. So again, when he finds it with the putter, he can really go. And the thing is about him, he was hurt more than many with the anchor ban back in 2016. It really hurt him. And he's still, I mean, today looks great, but we haven't seen any consistency with the putter the way we have with the Webb Simpson or some of the other players, Adam Scott, some of the other players who have come back from it. So it's nice to see him rolling it well.
He used to do the belly putter, which always looked like it hurt to me.
Yeah.
Just jamming the nut, like your grip up into your belly. That looks like it hurts.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, Rick, you're probably not jamming it in there because it would
looks
hurt,
like.
But it is anchored. So and Webb did the exact same thing. And Stuart Sink, who has been a story this fall, he did the exact same thing. So it really hampered a lot of players and it put a halt to Keegan's career. I mean, Keegan Bradley was 1 for 1 in majors at one point. He played in one major and he won it. And that doesn't happen very often. So and he won Rookie of the Year that year. So I think that really hurt his career.
That's a pretty good record. Yeah, we had 3 rookies of the year in the same group for the first 2 rounds because Keegan was paired with Scotty Scheffler and Sungjae Im. Hot on the heels of Keegan Bradley in a tie for second is JT Poston, who follows up his Thursday 66 with a Friday 67. And I thought what was kind of most noteworthy about this round, Greg, was a couple of things. Started fairly slow. He went out in even par. Then he got it going. He makes 5 birdies on his inward 9 to shoot that 67. And he's the guy who you think, wow, he's really just absolutely striping it out there. Second in the field in strokes gained approach. Of course, he's rolling the rock well, but he's really hitting the ball well, giving himself a lot of opportunities to make birdie putts.
With JT Poston recently, this has been kind of the story of the week. Yeah, yesterday's leaderboard was very similar, and these are players that haven't really been in great form coming in. And for JT Poston, I mean, in DraftKings, Rick, he was the minimum at the U.S. Open. He was the minimum at the U.S. Open. JT Poston, a guy that won the year before, a really, really talented player, and he'd been struggling with his game, and it was all in the iron play. The iron play, then you'll have better numbers than me on this, but the iron play was horrible. And now here he is, 4.16 strokes gained approaching the green. As you said, he's second place. He hit 14 of 18 greens today, 15 yesterday. So when the iron play for JT Poston is good, he's a really talented player and somebody to look out for.
Someone else to look out for, Charlie Hoffman, trying to find his first victory since I want to say it had to be the 16 Valero, right? That's the one in Texas, the Valero. He follows up his 64 with a 69. And I think, Greg, what's interesting is, Charlie Hoffman is he's notorious for going out and shooting something on Thursday, right? Just go out there, run out there, shoot your 63, shoot your 64, and see if you can hold on. Nice to see that he follows it up with another good round, 3 under par, keeps himself well in contention of this event at the halfway point.
Absolutely. And today's round was marked by really solid driving. It got a little loose at the end. The front 9, he drove it great, and he was able to hit a lot of the greens. And then on the back 9, it kind of got a little loose. So I think for Charlie Hoffman, you're probably looking at this round saying, well, I got off to a pretty decent start from a ball striking perspective. I know I was only even or 1 under par going out. No, I'm sorry. He started on the back, right? So he went out in 34. He was 2 under with a couple of bogeys.
Right.
But on his second 9, the front 9, it kind of got a little loose tee to green for him. I did think the birdie at 6 was big. It was really important to kind of get both of those 9s under par. But I think Charlie can clean a couple things up and get back to what he did yesterday. So there's a chance that this was the bad round for Charlie Hoffman. My hope is that tee to green performance coming down the stretch is the bad performance, and it's not the normal. I hope that's not things leveling out, because there's a couple shots he really could have cleaned up.
To round out the top 4 is MJ Duffy, and here's this is the storyline, right? This is the storyline for the week. He Monday qualified for this event. This is 5th PGA Tour start, and I cannot even begin to describe, Greg, and we can try, how difficult it is to Monday qualify for events these days. We talk about how deep golf is. There are so few spots. You usually have to shoot something incredibly low to Monday qualify for an event. And in this one, particularly for the Sanderson Farms this week, he qualified after an 8-for-2 playoff. That means 8 guys in a playoff for 2 spots. So as if it wasn't already hard enough, you had to be one of those 2 to come out of it. It's really hard to explain and quantify how difficult it is to Monday qualify.
The Monday qualifying life is brutal. There's a great Twitter account, the Monday Q, I think it's called. And it talks about Monday qualifiers. It talks about players that are in this position where they're grinding, trying to get out on the PGA Tour. And it's great. It really highlights the story. You'll see leaderboards of 8-for-2 playoffs and guys that shoot 65 in 20-mile-an-hour winds and miss by 2, right? It is amazing. It's really amazing how impressive these players are. But when you get in, it can lead to good play. I mean, to Monday qualify to get into an event, you're clearly playing well. So we look at these guys as bottom of the barrel. They're mins on DraftKings. They're nowhere near betting favorites. Yet sometimes you get a player like Corey Connors. I think last year Corey Connors Monday qualified and ended up winning. So it can happen. Point being, these guys are really, really good, and they're coming in confident. They just played a round where they shot in the low 60s to get in. They beat 8 guys in a playoff. They're in really good form.
Right.
So MJ Duffy, a player you definitely don't know a lot about, but it's something to watch. It's a storyline to watch over the weekend.
That Twitter handle you're referring to is a case of the golf one, Monday Q info. And you're right. So Corey Connors, most notably the last guy who Monday qualified and won. I believe it's happened 5 times on the PGA Tour where a guy has actually parlayed their Monday Q into a victory. So it's rare, but you're right. These guys do generally come in pretty decent form because they just shot an unbelievable round, a couple of days prior to this.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of factors. It's not like, watch out for the 4 guys that Monday qualified. It's not quite at that level. But it should be less of a surprise than we make it, because they are coming in on such good form.
Let's talk about who looks good for the weekend. Keegan Bradley, 2 shots clear, and he's, I guess, the biggest name, the best resume of anybody in the top 10. I mean, I guess Sergio is in there as well, but you've got Charlie Hoffman trying to chase, Greg, this tournament historically offers a lot of first-time victories, right? We see that a handful of times. So you're probably talking about, Taylor Gooch, Denny McCarthy, Christopher Ventura. Those are all guys looking for their first win. Is there anybody that stands out to you that you say, okay, they've got the staying power for the rest of the week?
Well, it's fun. I mean, these are the hardest to predict, the hardest to handicap, in my opinion, because these are a bunch of players here who are, I'm not taking away from their ability at all, but they're players that, based on their previous records, you don't trust, right? We saw Christopher Ventura recently in contention, and the weekend didn't go great for him. MJ Duffy, you don't even know who he is. It's a great story. You just don't, we haven't seen any of them. Mm-hmm. Charlie Hoffman is a player who we haven't seen on a leaderboard in quite some time. And JT Poston is coming off a really, I would, by his standards, a weak end of the year performance. So there's not a lot of players up here that you say, okay, yeah. And then you look at a Keegan Bradley, who's leading. So that gives him a little bit of an edge. He's got a 2-shot lead. Of course, he's going to catch your eye. But Keegan Bradley has gained over 6.5 strokes putting. So he's not that's not the model, right? The model doesn't work with him. The model works best with probably MJ Duffy, who I think is second. I have him as second strokes gained approach the green, and I have him as where he's 27th putting. So he's gaining a lot approaching the green with iron play. That's where the model goes. But do I trust that? Not really. So I guess I'm left with a Denny McCarthy is a player who I've been watching for a while now, and I really think you're going to start to see him improve. He's had some performances with improved iron play, and the putter is more reliable with him. So even though he sits right now at 6th, I think he's gained 5.1 strokes putting. So that has him at 6th. That's really good, but that's more normal for him. Whereas for Keegan, it's unnormal. So it's hard to trust it. So I guess I would have to say I do like Keegan because he's leading, so that gives him an advantage. I like Denny McCarthy because I've been watching him, although it feels a little biased. And the other guy would be JT Poston because his iron play has been such improved. And it was really good. Then he lost it for a while, and I think he's kind of found something here. So I'm hoping that can hang on for him. But this is really hard, I think.
Yeah, because you have zero confidence in any of these guys. I think that was the big takeaway for me is when you look at this leaderboard. So Keegan Bradley is 3-1, Charlie Hoffman and JT Poston, they're both 8-1. I think I can find a bit of interest in Christopher Ventura at 12-1. There's the narrative side of it, which says, we see a lot of first timers win here. There's the narrative side that says, here's another kid from Oklahoma State who is uber talented and can find a way to win golf tournaments. He's won on the Corn Ferry, which I think is very handy. And then you look at the statistical side of it, and he's 5th in the field in strokes gained from tee to green over the first 2 rounds. So when you put all of that together, and I see him sitting there at 12-1, he's the first one, Greg, that at least catches my attention, right? I mean, Keegan might win this, but do I want to bet it at 3-1? Not really. Do I want to bet JT Poston or Charlie Hoffman at 8-1? Not really. Like,
right.
There's something Ventura is the first one that kind of grabs my eyes and say, okay, this might be an actual something I could put a buck down on.
He's in the top 10. He's driving the ball, I would say, the second best. Sergio Garcia is the only one driving it a little bit better than him. So it's an interesting pick. I like it. I have no problem with it. You've seen some consistency, shooting 400 today, 500 yesterday. It doesn't feel like he just shot his really low round. With Keegan, you may feel like that was kind of his ceiling that he reached today, which can be a little bit concerning.
Do you want to give a classic Greg Ducharme guy who's like 9 shots off the pace, 50-1, like when you did John Rahm? Because Scotty Scheffler's 50-1. He is 4 under, so he's going to be 9 shots off the lead. What was John Rahm when you touted John Rahm at like 66 to 1?
He was 6 off the lead.
Okay.
But it's completely different because you know what? I can give you a guy. It's not Scotty Scheffler.
Right.
This is a guy to watch out for. You're not going to believe when I say this, but he's won recently, very recently. It's Stewart Cink.
Oh,
I look at Stewart Cink right now, who's sitting at 6 under par. He shot 3 under the first 2 days. He's having a great time with his son. They have great vibes going, great stories. He's hitting the ball great. And I think he's really confident. I mean, I look at the players that are above him, and maybe Sebastian Munoz would be a player with a confidence that could rival him right now. And I think you could really see a charge from him. And if he goes out and shoots 7 under tomorrow and he gets himself to 13, how far is Keegan really going to stretch that lead? And 13 under would get you past Poston and Hoffman, and those guys would then have to go shoot a 5 under round, and then you'd be within 3. So I do think Stewart Cink is a real long shot, blindfolded dart, throwing the dart there, and maybe you could hit with him, but he's got a lot of confidence.
He's 40 to 1 if you want it. I think this is a wide open leaderboard, so interesting to see. I'll be interested to see how it shakes out over the course of the next 2 days. Speaking of blindfolded, I want to talk about a golfer who's literally closing his eyes while playing, but first we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners. Greg, it was early on Friday morning. I was drinking my first cup of coffee on the couch here in California. It was, I don't know what time it was, 7 o'clock, 7:30. And I'm on PGA Tour Live, and Sergio Garcia is putting literally with his eyes closed. Now, we've made fun of Sergio, like he's probably putting with his eyes closed because the numbers have been so bad, but he was literally closing his eyes. And I guess there's 2 parts to this. Let's talk about today. Relying on his feel, just trying to really take away what, Greg? What would this do?
So typically, if you're going to do something with your eyes closed, this is something that I've done with, I wouldn't say beginners, but really high handicap players. I've done it with players typically in short game, where they can make these great practice swings and they can brush the turf nicely. And when the ball gets in the way, everything changes. So the idea of closing your eyes is to eliminate the term of being ball bound, which you've probably heard before. You're ball bound. That means that the ball affects the motion that you make. And so
this real quick, this is a lot when like my practice swings look awesome, but my real swings are terrible. Right. Because now I'm thinking about actually hitting a ball.
Right. So the ball has a lot of power. That little thing sitting down there has a lot of power over everybody. It's not just you, Rick. So my guess is Sergio is feeling like he can make a really great stroke, but when the ball gets in the way, he gets a little locked down. So it may be to free him up a little bit. I have my concerns with it. Of course, look, he's putting with his eyes closed. It's not a great sign. But that would be the reason why. And I suppose it's working a little bit. He's right there in the mix. But has the putting really, are you really that impressed with the numbers on the greens, Rick?
He gained a half a stroke putting on Friday, which was, I believe, only the 4th time in his last 20 rounds he's even gained strokes putting. So the stats would back it up. Here's the thing, Greg. He said afterwards, this is baloney. I do not buy this for 1 second. He said, for the last 4 years, he's hit about 70 to 75% of his putts with his eyes closed, including when he won at Augusta. I don't buy it. I do not buy this for 1 single second.
I don't remember ever seeing that. Now, if Henrik Stenson told you that he's been putting with his eyes closed, you may believe it because you don't see his eyes.
He's got the shades on. Yeah.
Right. But Sergio doesn't wear shades. So I feel like people who are watching the game, I mean, it's Sergio Garcia. It's not like somebody that doesn't really get a lot of TV coverage. He's covered when he's playing. We would have seen it. So I don't know. I haven't seen that before.
I'm about to red string this. I'm about to pull up the Masters, 17 Masters on YouTube. I'll probably debunk this in 3 seconds. There's no way this guy's been putting with his eyes closed.
No big deal, but I was there for that final round.
Oh, so you should just be able to tell us right now. You don't remember him closing his eyes.
No, look, when you're there, you don't really quite get it. The view that you do on TV, you don't get the HD close-up shots. But yeah, I didn't see it. I mean, he could have closed his eyes on 15 with that eagle putt that he had. About 2.5 feet.
Golf always gives us something. There's always something out there. If it's not Bryson with ants, it's Sergio putting with his eyes closed. It's unbelievable.
I know. Well, there's so many, you're trying to find an edge. It's such a hard game. You can get lost in your own thoughts, and you'll do anything you can to play better, to improve. I mean, look at some of the training aids you see, some of the exercises you see guys doing, and you do whatever you can to make it work. It just is a sign of how competitive these guys are. And that's why you see Bryson with the ants. He's trying to get an edge with the rules. That's why you see Sergio punting with the eyes closed, because he thinks it might help him, even if it's only a half a shot or half a stroke gained. So that's why you see these players do things like this.
Well, you better believe I'll be paying close attention to Sergio Garcia's eyes moving forward to see if they are open or closed. Greg, we are going to crown a chicken champion in 48 hours. Thank you for joining me. Any final parting words you'd like to leave the listening audience with?
Man, I'm excited. Great opportunities for these players coming down the stretch. So, and as always, I appreciate your support. Everybody watching on YouTube or listening, it's very much appreciated. And I also appreciate you following the Sanderson Farms. So we'll talk to you again the rest of the weekend.
We will be back again after round 3. Doug Bell will be back from Jackson, which is always fun. You can find Greg on Twitter at TheRealGFD. You can find me on Twitter at RickRunGood. This has been The First Cut, and we'll catch you next time.